Welcome to the Ausländer. So, welcome back to a new episode of the Ausländer. Today, I'm really happy to have Juanca here. Actually, Juanca was the person who recommended me in the first company we worked together in Germany. So he's mainly the reason why I become an Ausländer myself. So really happy to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here as well. This is brilliant.
Juanca and we met each other back in Barcelona. We were working in the same company. Again, another UX designer in the podcast. It's a recurrent thing. I think it's already 4 or 5 UX designers who pass through to the podcast.
Oh, wow.
So it's quite a lot. And then actually you moved back in 2017 to Germany, 2018?
No, so I moved to Germany in 2019, September 2019, yeah. If I recall correctly, right? So, no.
No, it should be 2018, I think.
2018, actually. No. Oh, yeah, 2018, yes. 2018, September 2018. This is strange. No, September 2017. Damn, it's been like so long now.
You didn't even realize it. Time passes.
It's almost 5 years now. Damn.
Yeah, I remember because I moved in March 2018, and actually,
yes, you're right.
We had 6 months of difference. So you were first sent to a project in Frankfurt as designer in there while we were working together in Barcelona, and then after 6 months, you pulled a recommendation, and I am joining you also in Frankfurt on March 2018.
This is crazy, man. I'm like Peter Pan, you know. I keep telling people that I meet around that I moved to Germany in 2019, and now I just realized it was 2017. I feel old suddenly. This is good.
So it's nearly 5 years for you living in Germany.
Yes, exactly. It's 25 years this year.
Nice. You are originally from Mallorca, which is nearly Germany. No, just kidding.
People keep joking about it, right? I'm currently living in Berlin, right? Which is a spoiler alert. I guess you're gonna say that, but Berlin is full of Spanish people, right? And in Germany, basically, when people talk about Mallorca, they say it's the 17th German state, right? So they make this joke all the time. But then I heard a lot in Berlin that people say Berlin is the revenge from Spain for Mallorca, right?
Yeah, I mean it's a common thing that you hear in Germany that people tend to say that Berlin is not really Germany. It's like a new whole different thing from the rest of Germany, and I kind of agree. Knowing a little bit Germany and knowing Berlin itself, it's a different world completely. So
yeah, it's a gray area in the rigid and lovely German system, but yeah, it's kind of like it's like a bug in the matrix in some way. Yeah,
in a lot of ways, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can really get lost in here.
So you move, as I recall correctly, from Mallorca to Barcelona because of studies. You start working in Barcelona, and then you ended in Frankfurt also because of work reasons.
Yeah.
People who still remembers episode 1 with Carlota, I think we commented the whole circle and also talked about you shortly, saying that you were the first person. Then I came, then Carlota came. So we ended being 3 of the same company, 3 colleagues from Barcelona ending on Frankfurt at the first time. How was your arrival to Germany and specifically to Frankfurt?
I think it was beautiful, right? So when I moved to Frankfurt, I never expected I would move to Frankfurt ever, right? But this project came came up, and you just need to embrace it in some ways, right? When these things come up, and it was. I was also like living in Barcelona for like a long time. I think like 7 to 8 years. When I left, and Barcelona is a great city, right? But Barcelona is has this kind of like very transient kind of like nature as well. As a bit like Berlin, people come there and people leave after time, right? So it ended up happening to me that most of the people I met in Barcelona, people that I passed through my life, and basically they just left, right? And after 8 years, you really need to change and kind of get something a bit more manageable, at least for me, being from Mallorca, which is like in a small island, right? So when I moved to Frankfurt, the first thing I remember about that experience was it was September, right? And we were in autumn. And I remember this city, Frankfurt, in autumn is beautiful, right? And being from Spain, like this sense of seasonality, of the seasons, is something that is not very clear, right? Because it feels like you are either in summer or in winter, or like a colder summer or a hotter winter. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, and there I really arrived, and it really felt like, oh, this is what autumn looks like and how it feels like. And it was super. I think it was like the best possible season for me to arrive to Germany. Yeah. I was in an Airbnb, so that was kind of like a bit of exploration to see what happens. But I think shortly after, I managed to kind of like get an apartment, and everything started kind of falling into place. Yeah,
I mean,
it was a good arrival.
I think it's something that we also commented with Carlota, and it's something that I'm curious about when you arrived to Frankfurt, because at the end, when we both, Carlota and I, arrived to Frankfurt, you were already there. And I remember actually, for example, the first night that I arrived to Frankfurt, I slept in your apartment because I couldn't book an Airbnb back in the time, the certain day that I was arriving, because I was arriving quite late. So it was different because you were already there. So you were already saying us, hey, check these areas, check these others. But when you went to Frankfurt, you didn't know anyone from Frankfurt. So now I compare it, for example, when we moved to Greece, when we moved to Athens, where we were coming here. I mean, of course, I was coming with Catherine, and it's still 2 people moving, but we didn't know anything. We didn't know the city. We didn't know absolutely anything about where to search for flats, how to do things, and the language, of course, it was complex also. So
yeah. I think for me, I think I'm quite an extrovert person. So I just going into that project, it was obviously before COVID, right? And it was kind of like times where going to the office was something, where you could really easily kind of like connect to people and see, be in contact with people all the time. So for me, I think, first of all, I was very lucky. I think I've been quite lucky with when it comes to apartments in Germany so far, because the first Airbnb I got, which was, not a great Airbnb, but it was located in one of the nicest areas in Frankfurt, right? So I really connected with that part of the city straight away, which I think was very cool, just to go have walks around and kind of like, I think cool thing about Frankfurt is that it's such a small city, but very pleasant to walk through, that it really can start connecting the dots by walking around of how the neighborhoods connect to each other. And, I think that was pretty cool. But at the same time, I didn't put much pressure into the fact of going and meeting people and trying to, have a circle. I just kind of went with the flow, and it really worked out well for me. So,
yeah. Cool. I mean, to be honest, also, I think that the colleagues and the work environment that we had back in that time in Frankfurt, it was really good. I mean, it was fairly really easy. A lot of foreigners, a lot of expat people staying together, doing barbecues, doing jam sessions, doing game days, doing a lot of stuff because a lot of people was in the same situation as us. So I mean, come on, a lot of the friends that we still have in Germany in common, most of them are coming from that environment. So it's
definitely.
I suppose that's
it was a beautiful place. It was a beautiful place to be in. I think, especially I think when I joined that company, I was in. So that company was really in kind of a golden age. I felt, or that department within that company was in a golden age. So there was so many people. Everyone was around, and it was like very hectic, and it really didn't allow me to, or didn't give me much room to actually worry about, oh, I don't know anyone here, or how is this going to be like, and so it really kept me busy, which I appreciated as well.
Yeah, totally. Do you remember a critical moment of arriving in Frankfurt? I mean, maybe not arriving, but the first 1-2 years in Frankfurt that you say, okay, that was definitely critical.
I mean, I had some. So in that Airbnb, I had some issues with the landlady back then, because it was a bit of like you get into this Airbnb. I was there for 2 weeks, but I liked the area, and then so I was staying in her apartment, and then she offered, actually, I'm gonna be traveling around. She was a singer, and or she's a singer, I guess, and she told me, I'm gonna be traveling around Paris, and I'm gonna go to London, and then I'm gonna be somewhere in the US. And she said, actually, do you want to kind of rent the room? Maybe not through Airbnb, but through like normal rental. And I said, actually, that's great. That's great. If we can just have some extra months, then I don't need to worry about getting an apartment as fast, right? And I did so. So I was staying there from September till February of 2018. And that was quite strange, because it was her apartment. I didn't change much. It was her room basically, and I was like living in someone else's life somehow. It was strange. But in the moment of leaving, she gave me a bit of war around kind of like leaving the apartment and signing the contract. So that was, I think, one of the first things you need to really be, I think, very careful about when you're in Germany and you don't know the language and you don't know like the renting law. Is kind of like really looking into all the details of when you get an apartment and how this is actually how legal this rental is. And in the end, I just played along. I could have actually tried to fight, but I just played along, and then she was like fine with it. So I just stayed 1 extra month when I actually wanted, and it was fine. I didn't have to do anything else.
Yeah,
but it could have been critical.
I know the pain.
Yeah. Remember, you also had a really crazy experience, right?
Yeah, definitely. Go to episode 5 and you can still remember that. But definitely, I think it's one of the recommendations that I throw that in the table on that episode when I was interviewed by Frank. Check and double check contracts, especially when you're renting things in Germany, especially if you don't speak the language and you don't understand the contract. Said that. Maybe just switching a little bit to something a little bit happier. And as a quick introduction, we are drinking APA's beers. Of course, it's not something that you can find. I'm drinking a Greek one. First time that I try it. It's not that.
Can you pronounce the name? Is it possible? Can you try? Butcher it.
Pikri.
Pikri. Amazing. Beautiful name.
Pikri. Pikri from Kikri.
Pikri from Kikri, yeah?
If awesome. I need to read the other things, not anymore.
I am drinking Beer, which is basically a Berlin bio beer, basically. It's kind of quite hipster, but it's super nice, actually. I really like it. It's a shame that we cannot actually drink the same one. A really cool experience.
Yeah, it's what it's happening when it all started at this point of time. This podcast and the episodes, of course, the first episodes were all recorded live, like with the two microphones. I actually have two microphones for recording, and now I'm only using one because everything is recorded through video calls. It eventually happened that it gets a little bit more difficult. And it was nice to be in person, also drinking the same drinks and just like sharing a little bit more of, I don't know, in common thing. I mean, but I think we all came experts out of the COVID situation on doing this kind of things, even if it's recorded and everything. So not too bad.
Yeah, we are doctors, like doctors in Zoom now. This is our life.
Exactly. So coming back to Frankfurt, happy path. Do you remember any crazy story, any crazy moment that happened in Frankfurt that you say, okay, this is worth it telling, like this is a crazy story, funny thing, whatever?
I need to think about this. Let me kind of put my thoughts together. I mean, crazy stories, I'm sure there was plenty of them. Something crazy. I mean, I don't know if you kind of already talked about this party that happens in Frankfurt that we used to go together sometimes. Kabinette Kuriositäten. Did you already talk about this?
I don't think so. I don't think Carlota or the other guys from Frankfurt said anything about Cabinet Kuriositäten, but we can talk about it. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we can talk about this. Yeah. So, cool thing about Frankfurt is that it's a very small, it's in a small city, right? And, it's usually associated with business a lot, right? So it actually is mainly like also business city, right? So a lot of people go there during the week, work, and then they leave for the weekends. So somehow it feels like it is hard to find like a scene you can tag along to, where you can just go to kind of like cool parties or going to kind of like nice musical scene or kind of going to concerts and stuff like that. There is some cool stuff in it. Like there's a very interesting kind of like jazz scene in Frankfurt. But at the same time, there was this kind of parties that we discovered called, maybe I'm butchering the name, but it's Kabinette Kuriositäten or something like that. So the cabinet is cabinet as well of curiosities or something. So, and it is basically happening in this abandoned hospital, right? That is not used anymore for anything else than actually, I think, parties and events. And
actually, it's an atelier. It's a workshop space for artists.
That's cool. Yeah. That's cool. That makes sense. And basically, we kind of started going there, and it was, I think, happening once every 2 months or every 3 months or something.
Before COVID, yes, I think once every 2 or 3 months. Yeah.
Exactly. And basically, in order to get in, you needed to, like dress up in crazy ways. And then, obviously, your camera, get some, stickers, so you cannot record anything what's happening inside. And in this huge space of like a lot of rooms and stuff, all of the rooms were actually themed. So there was like a forest party, and there was like this kind of like hardcore techno kind of like spaceship, and there was I don't know what else, this very suspicious basement you could get into. I don't know what happens inside. Yeah. And then there was also like this room which was all kind of like clouds, and there was all mattresses, so you could just like sleep there like you're in heaven or something. So it was
wasn't that the room that you entered through a big vagina?
Yeah, there was, I think, some moments where you could enter that room through a big vagina. Yeah, exactly. Which was like ridiculously funny. And it was like also like performances, like artists were coming there, and there was like a lot of like naked kind of like dancing and cool stuff. So it really felt like it was a Berlin party in Frankfurt in some way. And I remember this time when there, it was like a 24-hour party happening there. And we went there in the afternoon, and they also had, it was in summer, so they had an outside section, or the outside part of the building, like in the patio. It was like this
Haima.
Yeah, it was a Haima, exactly. It was like this Haima, and it was like such a cool vibe and music and people dancing outside. And I think we really got really wasted this day, and I kind of lost track of you guys, and it was quite fun. It was quite fun. I cannot talk about specific details of things that happened there. But if you want to find out, hey, just check them out on Facebook or Instagram or whatever they are,
Yes, definitely.
And now that we're talking about that, just hit the like button and subscribe to this podcast. This is YouTube, right? So, or this is also YouTube, right? So I guess this also applies.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think it's really true. Frankfurt has these kind of things. It's not easy. So from the very first moment, you don't enter directly into these scenes or this kind of mood in the city. It's a little bit more complex to arrive to this point, but it has it. So it has some of this, which keeps the city awake on weekends. So it's a kind of phenomena that you see that the city really drop in people. Like there is not the same amount of people that you see during the week, because everyone goes out of Frankfurt and return wherever they live. And suddenly on weekends, there is only this scene. Like the people that you see around Frankfurt on weekends are people who is in a kind of mood or another inside of this kind of hidden scene of Frankfurt. I mean, we could talk about Gudes, the kiosk.
All the classics.
All the classics in Frankfurt. But yeah, very true, very true. It's really, really like that, yeah. Making the jump, actually, why did you leave Frankfurt? What was the decision why you did take the decision to go to Berlin? And how did that happen?
Yeah, I think it was a kind of a combination of it was like a contextual mashup of streams of basically thought and it felt like very organic actually, because back then I was for 2 years already in Frankfurt. So I mean, it's good to be in that city for a while, but at the same time I kind of like I heard the night calling me, basically, big city howl, it's kind of like trying to catch your attention again. And I'm quite I'm personally is very interested in kind of like arts and, the art scene and, the music scene and kind of all that kind of stuff. Right. So, and I had in my mind, okay, to move somewhere else, like again, another big city, and trying to kind of explore what's coming next in my professional career and also my personal life. Right. So at that moment I was already freelancing. I'm a freelancer since 2019. And
that's when you arrived to Germany, no? When you start freelancing.
Exactly. Everything is the same. So yeah. And yeah, basically at some point in time, I thought of, what is the next natural step for me? And I had some ideas in mind. I thought, obviously Berlin is in Germany and is one of the kind of like European capitals, also has a huge startup scene. Then I also thought London, because I love London, but London is been going through like a lot of change, and it's a kind of transition period and something maybe you don't want to be part of, and yeah, also like Netherlands, but was a bit more far away in the scale for me. And then basically my girlfriend was actually thinking about leaving her job, right? So quitting her job, and trying to study again. And it really kind of like fit because like the stuff she wanted to do, which was around sustainability. They had one of the kind of more important masters in that field here in Berlin. And it also felt natural for me because I'm a freelancer that is based in Germany. And I thought, actually that would be like a very smooth move to go to Berlin. Also, Berlin is fucking great. What can I say, right? So yeah, that's how we actually happened. Just was a transition over some months. And I was, I think, from September 2019 to November, I was living in between Frankfurt and Berlin. So kind of traveling every week and kind of moving some stuff around in a kind of 2-month apartment that we rented here. And then from November 2019, we are in this apartment since then. So we're super happy here.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I kind of remember the moment where I was still living in Frankfurt at the moment of time. And I remember you moving, like coming to the office still back in that time. Also, there was offices and there was no COVID.
Crazy.
It sounds so far away. So you were also coming like for 2-3 days per week, as far as I remember, to Frankfurt. And then going back to Berlin, which is something that, as we said, there is a lot of people doing in Frankfurt and in other places of Germany. Also, it happens like people goes back for weekends or works 4 days per week and then like commute to work and then go back. But
the commuter life,
I expected that's a super exhausting life. I mean, it's a lot of hours in the train.
It's
a lot of
I mean, there is some beauty to it, to be honest. Like, if you kind of, for example, I was in Frankfurt usually Tuesday to Thursday, and then Mondays and Fridays. I think I was in Berlin, working from home in those 2 months. And it was actually a beautiful time. It's a bit exhausting, right? Because I tried to kind of wake up Tuesday 4 a.m. Getting the train at 5. It's like around 4 to 5 hours train between Berlin and Frankfurt. So I got to the office around 10 something. And it was like this kind of like very intense situation of just wake up at 4, and you kind of go to this train, you find it somehow, you kind of have some food in the way, and then you work from the train. So the first hours are a bit critical, but then when the sun starts kind of rising and stuff, then you are in this beautiful train going, because Germany is a beautiful country, right? It has a lot of like green fields and like very beautiful villages. So when you kind of go with the train, usually in this time you don't find that many people traveling, right, with the train on a Tuesday morning or a Thursday morning at least. So it was a very peaceful time for me to actually get some work done, because obviously you always have the excuse that, actually internet is not that good, so I cannot have calls in the morning. And also it's fucking 6 a.m, right? So
nobody wants to call.
Am I allowed to swear here?
Definitely.
Yeah, okay.
I take the child protection on the YouTube, so no worries. You can swear.
Okay.
You know me.
Amazing.
I swear a lot, especially in English.
Fuck yeah.
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, I kind of understand it. It's came to a situation point where through different kind of stuff, you ended in Berlin. Also, Laura will be one of my guests soon, I hope, here also, and we will have an episode.
I mean, for sure, she will give you like a different view, I'm sure, because it's a completely different journey to the one I had, of course, as well. So
makes sense. What about the difficulties or not difficulties? What about the shock of coming from a city? Because you were saying just before, city like Frankfurt, size of Frankfurt, where you walk 40 minutes and you cross the whole city nearly, or 45 minutes and you cross the city, and you know all the connections, all the neighbors, everything. It's really easy. It's in the hand of everyone, let's say like this, to Berlin, which, 40 minutes of train, it's going to the center.
Berlin is brutal. It's a brutal city in the sense of it can really suck you, and also it is. So if you like to do stuff, like Berlin can give you everything and can take everything from you. So it may sound like a bit dramatic. Let me rephrase that. So Berlin is a city that so it can suck you because so much stuff happening all the time. Oh, actually, someone is ringing the door.
Okay,
maybe
no worries. We caught it and yep. So we are back. Ringing bell. Stop. Plus, plus grabbing another beer, which is another classic. You were just saying that Berlin, it's brutal in the sense of.
It was such a cliffhanger, right? Mm-hmm. No. I mean, it is brutal, right? In the sense of, if you like to do stuff in this city, like it is like an endless dwell, right? Because basically, the thing you will find if you like to go into events and stuff here is that there's a moment in time where you're gonna have like 4 things happening the same day all the time, right? So you are all in constant fear of missing out. Like the FOMO here is the most real FOMO I ever experienced in my life, right? So that's something you need to kind of like make peace with as well. Kind of like, that's I need to understand I cannot do everything, and the city is always like in constant motion, right? So you feel it's alive, but at the same time, I mean, at the same time, this was also affected by COVID, right? Which is another discussion, I guess, for another moment, I would imagine. But yeah, it is also quite overwhelming to be in this huge city in which every neighborhood is like a small city in its own. So every neighborhood has its city center, and its own scene and its own vibe. And I think like a bit the journey here in Berlin is first of all, I guess getting to know the neighborhood where you are living, and then trying to expand that horizon and say, okay, so let's kind of take some time into. So I'm living in Friedrichshain. In the east of Friedrichshain, so Ostkreuz. But if you say, okay, let's try to kind of find out the big ones, right? So what's Mitte about, and what's Prenzlauer about, and what is Kreuzberg about, and Neukölln. But then you start and say, oh, what is beyond that, And then you can go into kind of smaller ones like Steglitz and Schöneberg. Not smaller one, but less hyped, basically. Ones, and I think you can really get all these kind of different vibes in the same city. And when it comes to transportation, it's pretty easy going, I feel. So we have this wonderful invention, top tier technology called Ringbahn, right? And it's basically this circular line. It's like this train that goes in both directions around the city center. So basically, I could be in 15 minutes or 20 minutes or 25 maybe in the other side of the city, right? Not of the city, but on the outer in the other part of the inner circle of the city, which is still very far away. And that's pretty doable, I think, when you kind of get the ropes of it, how it works and how to move around. So it's pretty good.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, I think in that sense, it's kind of well connected, at least the inner side of Berlin, let's say like this. Then if you live a little bit outside, I suppose it gets a little bit more complicated, and it less frequency of metros, less time, or less buses and everything, and traffic in Berlin. It's not the best either. Now, for example, that I have the option of comparing it with a similar in population city, like Athens in this sense, on my own experience I think Berlin, it's around 3.5 million, I think, around that. And Athens is around 3 million, 3.2, something like this. I think it really makes a difference, because in here, it happens more like the same. You are well connected to the center, but if you need to go to the outside neighborhoods of Athens, good luck. Really, really good luck. If you don't have a private transportation method. I don't know. It feels like, I don't know, like a little bit more difficult to arrive to places in Athens than what I experienced in Berlin, for example. Of course, here there is only like 4 lines of metro. There is buses that are from the 80s, and you feel that. I wanted to ask you, how is the fact, because I of course I've been in Berlin and I know Berlin not really 100% well, but I know it. So how is the fact of the internationality? Because one of the facts that I compare a lot, it's Berlin in that sense, it's really international and you survive with English, for example, which you also do in Athens. But this kind of what you were saying of 100% activity or 100% things, thousands of things happening into the city that Berlin has for locals and for expats, Athens is something that doesn't have, for example. It's mainly like either you know Greek and you know traditional music or you know whatever, and then you have a lot of things to do. There is not a lot of expat community here. So how is that affecting your normal daily life? Are your friends expats? Are you have friends from Germany? How is that in Berlin?
So I think a lot of people say it's very hard to find like real Berliners living here. I think Berlin is like a huge expat city. I mean, it's like London and all this kind of like big cities, right? Like they are just, there's so much industry and there is so much opportunities for people that there is people coming all the time here. And actually most of my friends are expats and people from other places in the world. There's also like German people for sure, but even German people from other places in Germany as well. A lot of, it is a crazy multicultural hot pot, as we call it here in Berlin, right? A lot of people from the States as well, which I was very, I didn't expect that. Actually, some of our best friends here are from the States. And it is. I think a lot of these are actually tailored for, obviously, Germany is always, something you will encounter in most of events. But I think almost everything you do here, you can do in English, right? Yeah. Which is fine. I mean, I think also in Frankfurt, you could live, you could survive with English as well, I think, in Frankfurt. But I think here is easier. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. From my experience, you can survive in Frankfurt with English, but what happens in Berlin that you enter to a restaurant and you try to speak German and they tell you they don't speak German in the restaurant, the waiters or whatever, that's something that you don't experience in anywhere else in Germany. It's only happening in Berlin that I don't know, last time that I was here with you guys, I remember entering to a place, ordering in German, and the girl was looking at me like, okay. And then I thought it was my really bad accent of German, and it was not. She didn't understand German at all. She was only speaking English.
Yeah. You can find that as well. I think a lot of people working in the kind of service sector, restaurants and stuff, especially when they start jobs, because a lot of people come here and they need to, a lot of people come here for art as well. So they need to kind of get jobs.
Definitely, but it's curious. I mean, you will never find that in Madrid or in
definitely not.
In London. Nobody will hire a waitress in London who doesn't speak English. You know what I mean? Yeah,
that's true. That's great. Yeah, it is interesting for sure. Yeah. I really like this city. It's great.
Now that you said that you love this city, you like this city, what is the worst thing that you can say about living in Berlin?
Well, I think Berlin. So first of all, it's also like a trend. I think winter is pretty tough. I think winter here is very cold. It's very gray. I still love it because for me, it's kind of like the introspection exercise to be in winter, and I also like being alone sometimes and kind of being able to pay attention to my thoughts and kind of focusing on my stuff and being at home. I like that. But a lot of people kind of like try to escape it. So especially I think this year, so a lot of our friends have been kind of like gone for months now, just kind of trying to travel around during winter, coming back in spring. I think especially after last year with kind of like COVID was super tough. Also, we had a really, really strong lockdown for 6 months, which you couldn't go to any bar or anything and that was like very tough, I think. I think in winter, if you are able to go outside, you're able to meet with people, and you can go to bars and restaurants. It is super fun here, right? But yeah, it can feel lonely to some people. I feel Berlin. It's so big, and people are just like all the time passing by, going somewhere else, you know. And then at the same time, there is something to Berlin, which is it really gives you the opportunity to be whoever you want to be, right? So if you want to be someone and you want to kind of like try your art and or your craft and trying to put that in front of people, it really it kind of like enables you to do so, right? But at the same time, if you want to be no one, if you want to be kind of invisible, it also allows you to do so, right? And that could be sometimes dangerous, I think, if you kind of like get caught by that loop of trying to, not talk, be on your own, or talk to people, be more like deep introvert, and especially in the times we're living in, I think that is a bit dangerous.
It's curious because at the end, what you're presenting is a double blade sword.
No, double-edged sword. Double-edged sword. Yeah, definitely.
It's just like at the same time, people feeling lonely, people feeling, and that I think it's a pattern of big cities in general. I mean,
yeah,
thousands of activities to do with thousands of people and millions of people to feel these activities, but still with that, there is people feeling lonely in these cities because they don't find themselves in that. And because the big cities allow you to be transparent, as you were saying, invisible, like to be really like nobody would care. And that's one of the things that you definitely see in Berlin. Like nobody gives a shit on how you dress, how you look, how you whatever. I mean, good luck. Then you go out of Berlin, you're fucked, no? State-wise, and we know what is happening around Berlin in that sense.
Yeah.
Fortunately. But yeah, it's curious that it's really bringing these two completely opposite things at the same point, no?
It is cool when you can be in the sweet spot between them. You're in this convergence point between them. I think it's cool because you can control who you want to be. But it's very easy if you are not in control of your surrounding to actually just drift to one or the other. And like drifting to an extreme is always like dangerous, right? But yeah, I think it's cool. I think obviously also like there is sort of like it's very easy to get into party and drug scenes here, right? And I think it's very easy for people to get lost. And sometimes you kind of like see that as well. I respect it, but at the same time, it is sometimes like, oh, okay, so where am I getting at now, right? So.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's one of the common things that I think a lot of people say about, or a lot of people that I've met in Germany say, if I would have been during my 20s in Berlin, I would have lost myself, early 20s, whatever. And probably I include myself in that category. Yeah, it's as you described quite well, a brutal city, let's say like this, in that sense.
It is a brilliant city as well. So when I say brutal, I mean it can be brutal, but also it can give you everything, right? So I really like being here, to be honest.
I think, I mean, it feels like you really, I mean, if you want to have a healthy life or like a balanced life in Berlin, you really need to go there when you are prepared to go to Berlin, let's say like this, not in a random spot of, okay, I finish in Berlin randomly because of whatever, because then it's easy to get in one of these both sides that you were saying, which is really curious. Like, in the other hand, how is Berlin life conflicting with the traditional German, bureaucratically wise, for example? How is Berlin conflicting? So because at the end you still have the same regulations, you still have the same kind of mentality.
It still is fucking bureaucratic, man. It's crazy. So same for me. The biggest issues I'm seeing in Germany, which are obviously about how shitty like the whole regulation on like how tax is managed, and how still like a lot of legacy kind of very opaque processes work. Kind of like I had this situation with the church, and like the church kind of trying to kind of follow me to kind of for me to pay them taxes and stuff, and I had to leave the church. I had to kind of like quit the church.
You actually, because you are baptized, of course, you need to quit the church to not pay church in Germany. Okay, good.
Exactly, yeah, because no one tells you. So this is a big thing. So if you move into Germany and your parents baptize you, you need to know that you are actually obliged to pay 9%. I think like around 9% tax, or 9% on top of your yearly tax or something. So it is a lot of money, right? So in case no one tells you about this, but it's one of the main reasons for people to be
quitting the church, going out.
Not only quitting the church, but being in kind of like these shitty situations when you need to kind of like pay your taxes for the first time here in Germany. So yeah, that's something you should look into for sure. So this kind of all these things still exist here, and there is a lot of like bureaucracy, but it's also with the kind of credit card payments and stuff like that. Everything is kind of cash driven. Fuck this, Technology is still not. It's not very big here. I mean, in Berlin, technology is huge, but still like the biggest technology, like internet. Digital payments, things you kind of need to deal with every day. Still same old shit. These I can tell you. Yeah.
We are talking about the country which Chancellor Merkel was saying 4 years ago that the internet was a new thing for everyone. So of course, in that sense, yes, it's one of the biggest things that I think everyone realizes when it rents an apartment and try to get internet into Germany in general, and you get 20 megabytes maximum speed in internet at home, and it's just like, okay, what the fuck is going on here?
And everything is paper based. Like you receive all these things via post, and it's just weird. It's so strange.
Yeah, I mean, it has its downsides in this sense. When it comes to night scene, you came to Berlin on 2019, 20?
I arrived to Berlin on September 2019. I really moved here in November, and then in March, everything went to shit.
Okay, that's what I wanted to ask. So you haven't really lived the city in terms of nightlife, at least nightlife style as normally Berlin goes?
I did for 4 months, not to the fullest, but I was in a lot of like crazy parties and cool stuff that was happening. I think now it's starting to kind of like come back again. For example, on the 26th of February, we are attending this event called Device a Mouse, which is basically there's this kind of like event experience company called Red Door or something, and they are recreating like the first kind of like underground club in Berlin that happened in the 1920s called Device a Mouse, where kind of like kind of a very Babylon Berlin style stuff. So and it's kind of like a dinner with kind of like it's like a dining experience with kind of performance and kind of cabaret, and a lot of like, you need to have an open mind to go there, I would say. So we're gonna go there, and these things are happening, and there is a lot of like cool night scene already coming back. But yeah, I didn't get to experience like the real kind of club scene as it is known in Berlin, stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it kicked a lot of people. Don't know who we were talking about, people who moved during the quarantine, people here in Athens, for example, who came to Athens to work and suddenly they were in a strict lockdown where you need to fill papers and send SMS to the police to go out to the supermarket. And that was their first month in Athens. So I think it has been a rough and hardcore 2 years for people who has moved during this time, for people who has arrived just to the city just before that time. And do you think that that it will change your life a lot once all of this passed away in Berlin? Or I mean, you socialized enough. You have friends from all around. You have been 2 years during this time, but you met people. You went into having a social life in Berlin itself. It's not that you have been super disconnected to the city during these years. Or
no, I was quite connected to the city. I think. I think. In general, COVID here in Berlin was much easier than in many other places, right? So the first lockdown here, people were allowed to go into the streets and walk around, and people in Germany, this is normal, I guess. But if you think about people in Spain, that's crazy, right? So I think it was pretty okay being here doing kind of. Second lockdown was heavy metal. The second lockdown was just like brutal, because I think from November 2020, so November 2020 till I think almost May 2021, like everything was closed, couldn't do anything, and that was very, 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 that was tough. But still, you could still meet with some friends and you could kind of like try to make it work. So I used to have some friends that were coming over to our apartment and we were just kind of like putting some records on and we just like danced,
nice.
To like loud music for like hours. And that really kind of, but yeah, stuff like that. You need to kind of find ways to make it work.
Definitely. I mean, this podcast is a result of this, no? So at the end, you need to find ways to everything. They fuck your stand-up comedy. So you start a podcast, they close your clubs, you put your LPs and DJ at home.
Yeah, of course. Exactly.
It makes
you always find a way.
Yeah. So, actually, I think we are running quite out of time for this episode. I would like to use the remaining time on my always two last questions. First of all, any recommendation that you want to give besides the ones that you already give to people who wants to move to Germany, Frankfurt, Berlin, whatever it comes to your mind?
I mean, I would say if so, I think it's very hard to give recommendations on Berlin versus Germany. I would say if you're moving to Germany, just be patient, and if you kind of can get some, when it comes to legal stuff, get some advice, don't feel embarrassed to ask for advice, when it comes to money, when it comes to like contracts and stuff, please do so. It's very important, I think. Second thing is, hey, if you can learn the language and you have the space for that, just do so, like, even if you don't need German to live here, it is great. I think I cannot speak German. I can speak a bit of German, not very well, but I can understand most of it. And I feel like if you would really learn this language, it would be a completely different experience, much more enriching. And in Berlin, just check your apartment with, like if you want to move here and get an apartment, I think a big issue a lot of people say is, oh yeah, you can really not get an apartment in Berlin. It's so hard. People are constantly moving and stuff like that. It is possible. You just need to kind of like really consider your expectations of how much you want to pay, how much you want to get out of it. I think it's possible. You just need to be patient, and you need to. I think if you can put a bit more money, get a place, and not dealing with all that stuff, just go for it. If you cannot do so, there's a lot of like people renting rooms and stuff, and it's still cool, right? So I know there are kind of very lame suggestions, but these are things that I think are relevant if you want to move here.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I think the renting apartments topic in Berlin, it's in the last years has been one of the big topics.
I mean, to be honest, like we got our apartment on the first day we were visiting apartments. So, you know, you can use me as a beacon of light. You can use me as a sign of hope. It is possible, right? You just need to kind of like be open to be flexible about what you're actually expecting. That's the only thing.
Yeah, makes sense. So, last question before we end the podcast, and I think that's a little bit of a promotion time, like in terms of, do you have any personal project? Do you have any project that you know from friends or from known people that you want to use this space to say, hey, check this out, it's cool?
Yeah, I always have projects, but I'm not going to talk about myself. So I'm going to talk about other people, because sharing is caring, right? So I am going to do some shout outs. First of all, street artist Vermi Boos. He's actually now Berlin-based artist for 10 years. We have actually collaborated together in some digital art projects last year as well. So if you go and check vermiboos.com or Vermiboos Immersion, you're gonna actually you can check that out. So that's brilliant. Another thing is there is this place or this kind of like digital radio station called Refugee Worldwide. So they are kind of a group of DJs and friends that have like these kind of radio podcasts in which most of their, I think, benefits go into like refugee programs. So you can check it out, Refugee Worldwide, and you can check Loose Ends, which is like a radio show from great friend of ours as well, Ken Bach, Geoff Ken Bach from Bristol, living here as well for years now. And then two small things, Friedrichshain Collective, techno music collective from Friedrichshain, some cool friends here, DJ Rabat, you can check him out, also great sessions. And finally, you can check Frameworks Berlin. Frameworks Berlin is some friends of ours as well. They are actually owning one of the most beautiful framing shops in Berlin. They are building sustainable frames made out of old doors in Berlin and stuff like that. And they are super arty and brilliant. So check them out.
Cool. So I asked for recommendations and they came. I know that Juanca also have the best contacts in the city that he goes. So that's really, really appreciated. We will put all the links on Instagram channels if they have social media of all the 4 recommendations in the link in the bio of description of the episode, so you can check them out. If you're around Berlin, you need to check them out. If you're farther from Berlin and you go to Berlin, check them out. Juanca, it has been a really, really great pleasure to have you here and record an episode with you.
Thank you for having me. This has been so fun. I appreciate it.
It's really nice. I hope we see each other soon, either in Greece or in Germany.
Yes, potentially in Greece now in winter, and then Berlin in the spring or summer, I would say.
Exactly. It's a better time, yeah. You want to see the sun, come to Greece, yes.
Yes, exactly.
Great.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mark. And I'm going to see you soon.
Yes.
Thank you for having me. Cheers. Bye-bye.